Citizen Anwar, but more importantly, free citizen Anwar. And being a free citizen is more important than any honorific that you might have. A dato, a Tan Sri means nothing unless you're free. Because being free means that you have voted in fair and open elections. Being free means that you are protected by impartial and independent judiciary that maintains the rule of law. Being free means that you are governed by an elected parliament and a professional and impartial civil service that are dedicated to the benefit of the people. Being a free citizen also means that you are protected from laws which authoritarian governments use as a weapon against the people. So, welcome, I think. I made the comment that it's quite thrilling to see faces other than in a courtroom, which is basically what it's been for the last 14 years. And I see many familiar faces and old friends here. So, importantly though, it's great to have Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim with us today, a free and pardoned man, an unconditionally pardoned man, and we should all express our appreciation to seeing you today. Now, the principles I've mentioned are really what is in the book. It records Anwar's long struggle, 20-year struggle for justice. It started in 1998, and this is the 20th anniversary of that, through the first trial, through the second trial, the acquittal at the High Court, and then the appeals in the Court of Appeal and the Federal Court, and finally, after another 3 years in prison, freedom at last. And it's an amazing story, but incredibly true. And it's not just about Anwar Ibrahim, because the last 20 years really records the decline of Malaysia's democracy over the last 20 years. And hopefully its resurrection in General Election 14. It also documents the attempts by politicians to corrupt Malaysia's institutions and undermine its political and moral values. But that attempt has failed. And can I say this, that those of you who are not on the main table would not have seen that there are a lot of uncut diamonds strewn over the table. And I was asked whether these are Rosmar's pink diamonds. Apparently not. Can I say this, that last night I was in Kinokuniya in the KLCC, and there I saw, to my surprise, was this book, sandwiched between another book about Dr. Mahathir, and also Harry Potter. So success at last. Between Mahathir and Harry Potter, success at last. The book itself is, look, of course there's a legal analysis, but it's written by a lawyer, but not for lawyers. It's written for all of you, not just Malaysians, but people around the world, to really understand what has happened in the last 20 years in Malaysia, to understand it and to guard against a repetition of the corruption and the authoritarian rule that this country was subject to. And it's important that you understand how the legal system, the justice system, was used to manipulate the court procedure, and how the evidence was misstated and ignored by the prosecution and the judiciary in order to convict Anwar Ibrahim. Well, I can tell you, having observed Sodomy 2, having observed both appeals, Anwar Ibrahim is innocent of the charge of which he was convicted. That's not an opinion based on emotion or intuition. That's based on the evidence that the judiciary ignored. The judiciary ignored it because it wasn't part of the political agenda. And in the book, which I hope you read, you will see that the pivotal point of prosecution was the decision by the Court of Appeal in 2014, and then the subsequent conviction of Karpal Singh of sedition that really was the turning point. Because it was then the government had decided, that's when Anwar was going to stand for the seat at Kajang. Do you recall that? Well, in the space of a week, the judiciary destroyed not only Karpal Singh, but also Anwar Ibrahim in the most disgraceful way. And my declaration of Anwar's innocence is, as I say, based on not just evidence, but scientific fact. What the judges couldn't get over was that the DNA evidence was conclusive that Anwar's DNA had not come from the complainant Mohammed Saiful. It was fabricated. And that's what the foreign experts said. Dr. Brian MacDonald, the Australian expert on DNA, said, this may be his DNA, but this does not come from the complainant. It is too pristine. So that's why I'm able, and foreign experts are able to say, that Anwar Ibrahim is innocent of the charge that was brought against him. And the second book was called The Final Play because that's what was politically intended, was to destroy Anwar and Karpal Singh, obviously because of the scare that the government got in 2014. They knew the writing was on the wall, and so the only way, of course, to remove your opponents is to jail them or disqualify them from sitting in Parliament. And this book explores really the final play. That's how the game was fixed. This book, on top of that, explores what's happened in the last 3 years and talks about the final twist. And this is the final twist.